Welcome, students. Today we will be doing The Patriot by Robert Browning, who belonged to the Victorian age. Now, Browning brings the element of drama, brings the element of short story, and also brings the rhyme and rhythm that's essential in a poetic verse, and combines them all together to form his dramatic monologue. Now, the characters that are presented by Robert Browning in his dramatic monologues are essentially flawed or morally corrupted human beings. But the way he presents them, with eternal optimism, witticism, and cunning, leaves us in awe of them.
Welcome, students. Today we will be doing The Patriot by Robert Browning. So, Robert Browning has introduced the form of dramatic monologue in his poetry, where the character that has been created by the poet vents the drama or turmoil that's going on in his mind at that very moment through a monologue. And what is a monologue? Monologue is a long speech given by an actor in a play. Sometimes there is a silent listener present, and sometimes the reader himself becomes the listener in a dramatic monologue. So let's begin the poem, The Patriot. It was roses, roses all the way, with myrtle mixed in my path like mad. The house roofs seemed to heave and sway, the church spires flamed, such flags they had, a year ago on this very day. So what is the takeaway from here, from the first stanza? Here the poet is describing the most significant day of the life of the patriot, when the whole city had erupted to welcome the homebound patriot. Everyone was at their rooftops and were jostling so much that the poet personified the roofs as if the roofs were swaying to congratulate him, and flowers were showered on the pavement. Even the bright colors of the flag that the huge crowd bore comes to his attention. The phrase all the way suggests the unanimous devotion of the public towards him. He was the center of attraction. This whole incident happened exactly a year ago, and the abrupt turn to past tense creates a suspense for the present mood. Let's come to the second stanza now. The air broke into a mist with bells, the old walls rocked with the crowds and cries. Had I said, "Good folks, mere noise repels, but give me your son from yonder skies," they had answered, and afterward, what else? So what of the takeaway from the second stanza? Here an atmosphere of awe and wonder is created, as the air surrounding the patriot is being mystified by a layer of pompous mood, which reminds us of the return of Caesar in the opening scene of Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. The ambition and charisma of the patriot can also be compared to that of the Julius Caesar, as the crowd is totally in awe with him, as the crowd during the welcome scene of Julius Caesar was. They can make him a present or sacrifice the dearest of things that they valued with a smile. Here the voice of the crowd is included to make the whole situation more realistic. As if the patriot could have got everything that he had needed, and the crowd would have given him their everything without a second's thought. Let's come to the third stanza now. Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun to give it my loving friends to keep. Not man could do have I left undone, and you see my harvest, what I reap. This very day now a year is run. So what are the takeaways from the third stanza? Here the poet gives us a vague idea of what had happened over an year that caused him to regret. There is a strong reference to the Icarus myth, where Icarus dies as he flew too close to the sun, causing his wax wings to melt. The patriot himself playing Icarus, as the tables are turned now due to his overambition, like the overambitions of Caesar or Macbeth, obviously the characters or the plays of Shakespeare's. The patriot had left no stone unturned on his way to please the people whom he considered as his friend. He knows now what he has in store after giving his everything to please the crowd. The sudden change from past to present again brings the mood of contrast that was left unfinished at the end of the first stanza. The fourth stanza. There's nobody on the housetops now, just a palsied few at the window set, for the best of the sight is all alow, and the shambles get, or better yet, by the very scaffold's foot, I trow. So what are the takeaways from the fourth stanza? Now a completely deserted street awaits the patriot, who is now turned into a traitor, as only a few wretched souls peep from their window to witness or jeer at his reversal of fortune. The patriot is now taken to slaughterhouse, where he is to be hanged, which comes to him as his last year's harvest. All his deeds while he was in power have been labelled as wicked or unjust now that he has lost all his power. Right? So here, the shambles gate or scaffold's foot are all the references to the impending danger that awaits him.
The fifth stanza. I go in the rain, and more than needs, a rope cuts both my wrists behind. And I think, by the feel, my forehead bleeds. For they fling, whoever has a mind, stones at me for my years' misdeeds. So what are the takeaways from the fifth stanza? Here, the image of an overcast ambience acts as a pathetic fallacy, as if the nature is weeping or mourning his unjust or unexpected reversal of fate. His hands have been unnecessarily tied, and his forehead is bleeding due to the stones pelted by the same crowd who had crowned him their lord just a year ago. This shows the fickleness of folks or the tragedy of modern politics, as he had everybody when he had everything. But now that he's a nobody, no one stands by him and he's being tagged a traitor.
Now let's come to the last stanza, or the sixth stanza of the poem. Thus I entered, and thus I go. In such trumps people have dropped down dead. Paid by the world, what dost thou owe me? God might question. Now instead, it's God shall repay. I am safer so. So what are the takeaways from the sixth stanza? The patriot here turns philosophical moments before the inevitable, as he contemplates both his fond memories and his present lot. Here, paid by the world refers to the mockery of his present fate, as he is being unjustly punished by the people for whom he had toiled over a year. Browning, being a devout Christian himself, ingrained the Christian belief of afterlife through the portrayal of the patriot, who believes he will be duly rewarded when he comes knocking on heaven's door. Conclusion. The journey of the patriot from power to pity again proves how short-lived a person's reputation is, as the same crowd who had gathered along the same street just a year ago to give a grand welcome to the patriot has lost their faith in him in spite of his aspirations to do the impossible. There are uses of Old English words like dost, which means does, and thou, which means you, in the last section of the poem. All the awesome build-up to his amazing career takes an awful turn now that he is no longer in power or the center of attraction. Though the poem ends in the death of the patriot, but Browning rings the note of optimism as he says that the poetic justice of the patriot is to be done by the god himself, as the patriot had died as a traitor in this world.